Nico Tortorella was here.
I was like, who is it? Who is it? No. And Nico is here, right?
I'm here.
Right here. I'm looking at you right now.
We are sitting in a booth in front of Hollywood Boulevard. The world can see us.
We are so excited to put you on display.
And I get to fangirl out for a minute.
What are you talking about? I get to fangirl out for a minute.
But this is the first time I've ever seen you.
I'm like, to you. No?
Well, oh my God, mutual admiration society.
It's happening.
I love it. I've been a fan probably since Scream 4, at least, I know.
Yeah.
Wait, but
that was 7 years ago. How crazy is that?
Is it? Because it really seems like it was like another life. It seems like it was 10 years ago at least. Were you the killer in that? I can't remember.
No, I wasn't.
No.
They like built it up the whole movie that I was
Yes.
the killer, but then it was this, Wes Craven spin. Not him, it's Emma Roberts. What?
Oh, right. Okay.
Well, the self-serving reason that you are #1 this week, I mean, you should be #1 every week, of course.
Thank you,
but
Benton.
this week, it just so happens that Menendez brothers... Menendez,
Blood Brothers.
I directed this film.
What's the title of this movie, Benton?
Menendez, Blood Brothers.
Blood Brothers.
Yeah, is premiering on Lifetime
Yes.
on Sunday, 8 p.m.
Very exciting.
And you play Lyle Menendez, right?
I do. I play Lyle Menendez.
You're the older brother, right?
The older one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Was he the wig-wearing one?
He was the wig-wearing one.
Okay,
Yes.
and you wear a cute little wig in the movie, don't you?
For one scene of the movie,
okay.
actually. So I showed up to work, and not a lot of people knew that he was wearing a piece, like for all of the trial. And I mean,
Queens cocked that.
Yeah,
Did
you really? Really?
I totally knew.
So I get to work, and they're like, "Oh, what are we gonna do about your hair?" And they decided just to cut my hair to make it look like I was wearing a rug on my head. It was the greatest haircut.
It was
I've
a
ever
very
had in my
chic
entire
haircut,
life.
actually.
Is it still growing out now?
No, we're good.
That's
No,
why he's got the
okay.
beanie on.
You were pretty famous for having your gorgeous head of hair on
it's
Instagram.
A thing. It's definitely a thing. Yeah, but there's a scene. Like, can I say that?
Absolutely.
There's
yeah.
a scene where the headpiece is taken off, and I've got a bald head.
There was some other hairy stuff going on, right? Because before we shot, we had to send you off
This
to
was
the
worst part of the whole experience.
Getting down into the nitty gritty here. What?
The full body wax.
Oh.
Yes, I'm quite hairy. And
But in the 80s, nobody was hairy.
nobody was hairy.
Yeah.
and they were young
Yeah,
too.
he was 21 when it
Right.
happened.
Okay.
So yeah, I got the full situation.
So you play Lyle Menendez, and then playing your brother is Michael Olivier.
Yeah. Great kid.
And
I just
you
love him.
you
so
both went and
much.
got your hair stripped together, right?
Yeah,
It was
we
like
held
they each
hands.
filmed each other, held hands.
That was like our first brotherly experience, actually.
He is so cute. He's
He really
it's funny because I just started following him on social media on a bunch of different things, and he just seems like he's having so much fun with it. And you and Courtney are so supportive of him. It's like a little family sort of bonded up there in Vancouver. Did you feel it? Did you really enjoy the filming?
Yeah, that definitely happened. I mean, this is a serious topic, so we have to
dig deep.
Yeah, we had to dig deep, and we had to just approach it with this sensitivity that you don't really always have to do for other things that you film. So immediately we were all on that level, right? And just spent quality time together.
Well, I saw like you guys walked on the beach. You had little hiking excursions with Courtney and Michael.
Yeah, I took Courtney to a sweat lodge one night, which was quite the experience. Let me tell you, Courtney Love may have been trolled in a sweat lodge.
Can you imagine what a nightmare?
You get the full story of that. She tells it on my podcast, The Love Bump. She tells the full story of the sweat lodge.
But most of the time, these guys were working extremely hard filming. And I should just say, for people who don't know the story, the Menendez brothers in 1989 murdered their parents in cold blood for months. It was months before they were arrested.
Was it 6-7 months?
6-7 months. And then for 6 years, they were like, well, for 3 years, they were waiting to come to trial. And then there was a trial with a hung jury, and then they got retried. And finally, after 6 years, they were convicted for the murder of their parents.
Right.
And all the time, the sort of court of public opinion, it wasn't that people said they weren't guilty. Everyone knew they were guilty of the murder.
Yeah, they admitted
but
to it,
why?
yeah.
Exactly. And everyone said they were rich kids, sociopaths, half spoiled, that they did it for the money. And this film tells a kind of different story.
But in fact, they were written out of the will before the murders happened, and they both knew that.
Right.
So,
but they kept saying that there were revelations after revelations of the molestation, and that the father was molesting Eric.
Both
of them. Are you of the mindset that that's what happened? Do you believe that?
Look, I play Lyle in this movie, right? So it was my duty to believe his story while making this, and that really stuck. Like, either they're the greatest actors that have ever lived, or all of these things are true, and that's the version of the story that we're telling. You know, I mean, they were so overexposed. This is one of the first court cases that was ever streamed on live television.
Yeah,
right?
Before OJ, it was
before OJ. And they became stereotypes of themselves. They were like just built into these boxes of this is exactly who they are. And, and you know, the media does a really good job of painting a picture, as we all know. And it just, you know, it's just not always the case. People are so much more.
I honestly think that teenage boys do not lie about being molested by men.
Right.
If you know, I think that if there's smoke, there's fire in a lot of these cases, because it's not in straight boys' DNA to make up stories about being, you know, having sex with older men or something like that. So I honestly believe that they probably were molested. I don't think that's even a question.
I mean, I think that
mind.
goes for a lot of people that are molested too.
Yeah,
not just straight boys. You know, I feel like if this story,
you're going to be stigmatized by people, and especially in the 1980s, there was still a lot of stigma.
You know what was interesting was in doing research for this. Randy and I spoke to a lot of victims of sexual abuse, of incestuous sexual abuse. And it was extraordinary how the patterns were the same. The details were different, but it was the same basic story. You know, incredible shame, incredible reluctance to do anything or say anything, for example.
Of course.
And also a real ambivalence that, you know, this is a parent who is molesting you and you feel torn in your loyalties. It's not cut and dried that you just hate that person.
No,
it's really,
there's a love hate, there's shame, there's all that.
I mean, even Lyle and Eric had two completely different ideas of how they wanted to handle it publicly. Eric was all ready to tell the lawyer, his therapist, everybody about what happened, and Lyle kept it a lot closer to his chest. I mean, he didn't want to tell anybody about these things. He didn't want to be known as
because they were so shameful.
Right.
I
mean,
these
kids that were molested by their father.
It's bad enough to
prison.
Bad enough to be gay, but then to be like molested by your father is even more
in prison, like you say, where there's even more problems added onto that.
Exactly.
Is doing your research? Did you ever want to reach out to them?
That was my gut instinct when I first booked the job. I was like, how can I go sit down with Lyle? Yeah, I would love to have a conversation with either one of them.
Do you think that they're going to be angry about this movie, or are they going to...
That's a good question. What do you think?
I don't think that they will be mad about
will
this
they
movie
see
at
it
all.
in prison? I mean,
they have televisions, right? Like, it's
I
quite possible.
I wonder if they get Lifetime.
But I don't think they get
That's
cable.
probably one of the channels they do get, though, Lifetime.
I remember Michael wasn't, you know, they had to set up a special screening for him. And
Michael Alig, Party Monster.
But they don't have cable in most prisons. It's just your basic...
Right. Are they in? I mean, they're not in a fancier prison, are they?
They're not in a fancy prison.
No.
I think
do research? Did you want to go?
No, I did no research.
How
dare you?
What I meant was, as far as like trying to set up an interview or anything with them.
Well, ultimately the issue is that they do. How do I put this? They needed money for their legal... They still have legal obligations. They need money. It's not possible to pay them for their story. So what was originally going to be a documentary actually morphed into a scripted
I didn't even realize that.
And it was going to be a sort of hybrid. Going to be a bit documentary, a bit scripted. Yes. And then it became completely scripted. And at that point, there was no... But you know what? Reaching out to them, I think,
compromises a little bit the integrity of what you can do.
Exactly.
Right?
And so, I mean, this was the crime of the century at the time. And for years, it dominated the headlines. And so there was no lack of material. And that's the extraordinary thing. We just could make the film, and Abdeen Nazemian wrote the most amazing script based on just a simple idea of what if they were telling the truth? And it's largely everything that they had to say, and they've said a lot about it in testimony.
So there was, you used actual testimony and
yes,
interviews
everything
and things like
there's a section of the film that's set in the courtroom. It's all verbatim testimony.
Now, is that hard to learn when it's like testimony and things like that?
In terms of what, memorizing?
No, well, it just feels like that's like a different like thing to access.
Yeah, because you're replaying something that already happened, so you have to approach it differently.
Right.
So, but instead of like trying to get like hand gesture, to inflection in voice, like getting it perfect, you just kind of take on the energy of what he's doing and kind of go from there.
But you know what was incredible is, and I don't know if you looked at the court TV, if you'd seen some of the courtrooms.
Yeah, of course.
There were times I was watching the monitor while you guys were performing. I was like, I feel I'm watching the actual case.
I mean, that's
the goal.
Really, I got chills. And the weirdest thing was, it was like the first few days of shooting that we had to do these court scenes, and the testimony of Lyle and the testimony of Eric was the most intense thing.
They were the first 2 days.
I know the first 2 days.
Going right in for the money.
I was weeping. I mean, I was weeping. It was so. I was like, it was just so overwhelming. I mean, they just did such an incredible job, Nico and Mike. Oh, you did.
Yeah,
you did. I mean, really.
Well, tell me about like how method do you get when you were doing something like this? Because does it get a little scarring after to inhabit somebody like that?
This isn't my first time working in the genre, right? I mean, Scream we were talking about, and I did.
Well, we're going to talk about the following.
You aren't
getting way before we talk about the shower scene.
Threesome
You would have just cut straight to the shower scene.
I want to hear this. But.
No, I think it's just like a headspace that you have to live in. It's an energy, and I think that it's important to separate yourself from the character that you're playing, like when it's necessary. I don't know. I don't get too insane about it. Other people in my life may beg to differ that comment, but I don't know. You just kind of ask for help and just become Lyle Menendez. I don't know.
You really did. I mean,
are there like sleepless nights, and is it like
No.
you can immediately after the scene is over you can
go
pop back to
not immediately. I mean, it's bound to on a subconscious level to affect the next couple days for sure. But talking about it in that trial setting is much different than what Michael had to do, where he's actually filming the scenes of being molested. That's like a totally different thing. I didn't have to film any of those scenes. So
we need to get Michael in here then, definitely.
We will. One of the other things was after they both did their scenes of this incredible gut-wrenching sobbing testimony, we're in a full courtroom of extras, of the jury and press. And everybody just burst out into applause. They knew they'd seen something spectacular and real and powerful. It was an amazing moment.
It was one of the greatest moments as an actor that I've ever had. It was like, oh, wow. That's what that feels like. It was awesome.
It's so interesting because it seems like Lifetime is really stepping up their game lately, and they have a lot of interesting stuff on the coming down the pike.
Right.
Did it feel different than things other things you've done?
Well, having made many Lifetime movies before, no, I haven't made any other Lifetime movies.
But
Rennie and I haven't. But it was interesting for Rennie and I to go back and do scripted because we hadn't directed scripted since Party Monster.
Really? Since Party Monster?
Yeah.
So it's been 13 years.
Been a few, James, please.
Yeah.
Calm down. And the thing was, this was, in a way it was great because you have to get on with it. Like an independent movie is a different challenge. There's never enough money. There's never enough time. This was like, well, actually, there wasn't enough money. There wasn't enough time. Yeah. But it also was like, it was moving fast.
It's a machine when you're working with the network.
Yes,
it's a machine.
yes.
Yeah.
And I actually liked that. Did you like that?
Yeah. It has its ups and its downs.
It does,
for sure.
Yes.
But it's nice to know that like you are supported in this, right? And you have X amount of time to make this movie, and that's what you got to do.
But so there's not endless retakes and
there weren't a lot of endless
time
retakes.
trying to.
Well, thank God we had a cast that like really delivered too. I mean, there's not a weak link.
There is not. There really isn't.
I'm so interested to see Courtney's performance.
I mean, my God, if we'd had to do take after take after take, we wouldn't have got the movie done. I mean, we had such a cracking cast. It was like, well, we're not really needed. We're just sit back and enjoy the show. It was amazing. Yeah,
but let's gush about Courtney for a second,
yes.
because she's never done anything that I have not just worshipped. I mean, she is such an amazing actress, and I'm so glad that she's in front of the camera again.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, when I saw the breakdown for this movie, like, I looked at it, I saw Lifetime, and I was like, and then I looked at it again, and I saw Courtney, and I was like, yep, I'm going to do this movie. And then I saw Randy and Fenton, and it was like, yes, of course I'm going to do this movie.
But also you read the script, right? Because I think that was a big thing.
For sure. But seeing Courtney's name on this was just like, yes.
It's a little bit of class right there.
If she's doing this, there's something here, and
some meat on the bone.
Exactly.
Well, you've been sort of a part of the WoW family for a while because
you have,
you're good friends with Milk. I know that, and you are friends with a bunch of the other girls too, right?
I mean, it's funny. I found myself somewhere in drag culture, and it just I could not.
You belong there.
No, I belong.
You make a pretty girl. We've seen you in drag.
Shantae, you stay.
But it feels like you are a good fit with the WoW family.
Yeah.
And, I'm enjoying it. I'm glad that you're here.
Thanks. Me too. It really feels like a family here, to be honest with you. And I've done things with a bunch of other, houses and stuff. And it just like there's something here that y'all just get it. I don't know. I feel more comfortable here than I do anywhere else.
Well, we love having you. And you should tell us about Love Bomb, because you've got your own podcast going on. And it's pretty happening. You've had, I got to hear all about your encounter with Sheila Nevins. Yes, the head honcho of documentaries at HBO. You had a love session with her. But you have these amazing people on Love Bomb. Tell us about it.
Yeah, well, season 2 is dropping June 6th, actually, next week. I guess this is the following week because we're listening to this next Friday.
Right, so what is next? What date is it?
Today?
Yeah, June 6th.
Today's the
Is the 30th.
Wait, why do you have my phone?
What are you doing?
So this will be June 9th.
So this is on the 9th. So the premiere episode of the second season, June 6th, and it's Courtney's episode.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, my God. You and Courtney taped the Love Bomb episode here at World of Wonder.
In the basement.
In the bowels.
Wait, that's when you saw her. That's when she was here. Yes.
Exactly. The episode is so amazing. Oh, my God. Look, I spent a lot of time with Courtney while we were shooting, and then afterwards we spent some time together, and she just brings it so hard in this episode.
Right.
You don't really ever get to hear her talking about herself.
Yes, that's
she
so
just
true.
doesn't really open up.
Yeah, exactly.
You hear other people talking about her all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, but she's very. I was going to say shy. That's not the right description, but she's just private.
She's been there.
She's secure.
She doesn't feel the need to.
Right. Well, she's in this rebrand phase right now.
Right.
Courtney Love, right? And I don't know. This episode's great. So there's that. We have Todrick coming in this season.
I love Todrick.
Love
so
him
amazing.
so much. Who else do we have coming in? Johnny Weir has an episode.
Oh my God!
Johnny,
God!
Johnny is like literal my spirit animal. If I could have anybody's wardrobe, if I could play in anyone's closet, it would be him.
But what's the premise of Love Bomb? Because they're not just talking, are they?
Yeah,
it's intimate.
Yeah. Look, I think it started. This whole idea for the Love Bomb started as I was like really becoming really comfortable with who I am and what that meant on a public level. And I was having all these conversations with so many different people in my life, Milk and people I've been in relationships with on just like what it means to be who you are. And I was just like, look, if I'm having these conversations, why don't we just put some microphones in front of our faces and see what happens? And this show was born, and it's become something so much more than what I ever thought it was going to be. It's just a real honest discussion on love, most importantly, sexuality, gender, and relationships. And we can all find something to talk about when it comes to love, and I don't think enough people really talk about it.
We don't.
Yeah.
No, what's the biggest takeaway? I'm curious, like having done 2 seasons of it, what is the sort of one thing that you take away from what everybody brings to.
Well, when I first started the first season, I was kind of trying to focus on specific labels in the LGBTQ plus community, and I realized very quickly that that's a really hard thing to do, because you start having conversations with people that identify or say they identify as certain things, and it becomes like really fluid. It's like, well, I've had these experiences and these, and I don't always feel this way. And I think that, like, ultimately what I've learned is that everyone has to just be treated as an individual. We're all so different.
Right.
And like, as the sooner that we can see that in each other and like really look at people for who they are, I just think the more solid the community will be and the world, you know?
Right.
Well, it's interesting that you, I know you've navigated your own path publicly for the past couple of years. Does that make you more or less private when, you know, I mean, in these conversations? Because sometimes you get a little, I know you get closed off, like celebrities get closed off when things get too hot, like people get too prying.
Well, I mean, I always said, look, if this conversation, if anyone was going to be talking about me in this way at all, I was going to be leading the conversation. And I really believe that, like, I don't know, I'm just not afraid to navigate this conversation at all. I think it's so fascinating and so interesting. And the more I talk about it, the less the show actually is about sexuality, and it's about something so much greater. It's like, I hate to use this term, but it's like post-sexuality, you know?
Right.
It's like emotional fluidity and love, really. Like, love extends sexuality, if that makes sense.
It does. It just seems that we're living in a time of such hate, you know, politically, such hatred. And how do you relate the show or what you're doing to that? I mean, do you feel, as an actor, for example, do you get a certain amount of negative heat for being so open about who you are? Because traditionally, actors and celebrities, there's been an expectation that they need to keep certain things private, right?
Unwritten laws
yes,
of being an actor, of what you can and what you can't say. Yeah, I mean, in terms of a political reflection, I just think of course we talk about things that are happening in the world. It's bound to come up. I use a lot of what's happening for, you know, the opening intros and outros, and I don't know. I mean, I haven't gotten a bunch of negative feedback at all.
Well, that's so, because I was just wondering, because we're sort of in a bubble where, like, everyone is very happy and celebratory about, you know, when people are, you know, expanding their horizons. That you got none on social media?
The only negative feedback that I have gotten is, like, when I first used the words fluid or even like pansexual, for that matter, a lot of, like, older generations, and even bisexual for that matter, like, will shame bisexuals or shame using the word fluid over bisexual, or just like there are boxes and communities that you have to fit in, and you have to use these words because we fought for them. That was some of the, like, original feedback that I got. And look, I hear that. I shifted my language from that feedback. I'm very happy using the word bisexual right now because of the people that fought for it to even exist in the first place, right? Do I fall somewhere under the bisexual umbrella, right? It changes, you know. I think that there's a fluidity in language that I'm really interested in. And then the other feedback that I've gotten is just that the show's a little self-indulgent, which
how can your podcast not be self-indulgent? That's by its very definition.
And if it's going to be self-indulgent, I want to hit, it's a love bomb. That's good. That's the right sort of thing to be self-indulgent about.
Well, that's ridiculous.
Well, what do you guys think of when you hear the term love bomb? If you, like, close your eyes and you just hear love bomb, what comes to your mind?
Well, I sort of think of those big foaming things you put into the
bath
bomb.
bomb
Explodes. I do think of that, and that's so
immediate.
I'm thinking warmth and deliciousness and fizziness and love.
An explosion of love.
I'm also thinking of sex and sexuality because you know, so it doesn't feel completely sort of namby-pamby, not namby, innocent, or just it doesn't feel asexual.
Right,
Love bomb
asexual.
Feels like there's going to be some getting it
Speaking
on.
of asexual, I had Janine Garofalo on this season. Fascinating.
Is she? She's asexual.
Asexual.
How is that even possible?
She sells it. Let me tell you, she sells it. She makes it make sense.
You don't think that's you're covering up for something, or there's some sort of repression happening, or
I mean, I think in some cases for sure. In
But
her
not
case,
her.
absolutely not. It's just who she is.
Well, wait a minute.
With the shower scene, you didn't ask
I
about
know,
the shower scene.
I
The
gotta go back
shower
because
scene.
the following, that first season of The Following was just amazing. I loved it so much.
Thank
and
you.
and
Aiden
Canto,
Yes,
right?
wow.
I don't remember the
there.
girl's name, but you
Valerie
were
Curry.
Valerie Curry. You were 3 bisexual psychopath murderers.
The dream,
Did you
really.
watch it? Did you watch that season?
No.
Okay. Well, the thing is, because there was
I
a
still have it to look forward to.
You do.
Yeah.
When this is in your old age, you can settle in the old folks home and watch the season
You can
1.
binge 'em, you can binge
Because
'em.
there was a scene, Fenton, when I tell this shower scene, where I can't even remember the context of it, except that you were coming in. You found them having it's your boyfriend and the girl.
Yeah,
That,
we had a girl locked in the basement. She was covered in
As
blood.
one does,
as one does. We were about to kill her, and they had killed her, and they had gone up to the shower to clean off.
to clean all the blood off.
Yeah, to clean all
so
the
there's
blood
all
off.
sorts of blood happening
Yeah.
too, which is really hot.
Oh,
And
God.
I walk in and I see the two of them kissing for the first time,
and you're
I'm
a
like,
little freaked out.
and I just
But
say,
you went
"Fuck
with
it.
it.
Let-
And
let's
you
do this."
joined.
He joins in
What?
the shower,
Oh my
and
God.
he disrobes, get in the shower with both of them, and the look of absolute ecstasy on your face as you are experiencing your first wave of bisexuality, where it's just this inclusive love between psychopaths. And
Dream television, really.
it was very shocking that
Yeah.
it was on network television.
Yes,
But
yes.
it also, like, every time you said sexual fluidity, bisexual, I see that face in my mind.
Oh, really?
I immediately flash to you just going, yes, I accept it all. And I wondered,
Can
where
you make
were
that face for us now? Just give it up.
That was it. But where were you on your spectrum of acceptance while you were filling that?
Well,
and did it influence you?
I was still drinking heavily while I was shooting The Following, so
Oh.
there was that happening. But funny enough, I had a boyfriend in LA and I had a girlfriend in New York while I was shooting that. So I wasn't killing anybody, but there was very much so life imitating art.
And you had 2 separate wives and 2.
They both knew each other.
They did.
Yes, they knew each other. They knew about each other. It's not always easy navigating a polyamorous relationship, but I'm working on it.
So you were able to bring a little bit of that. So there was a lot of reality in what you were filming right there.
totally.
Because I knew it. As I was watching it, I was like, "This is so real." It's like you should have gotten an Emmy for that, because that
thank
scene
you.
right there was just. I think we have to post it on the Wow Report.
We will.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Have you seen American Gods, by the way?
I haven't.
Wait,
and
have you
everyone,
been watching it?
No, but I'm
Everyone
I'm
keeps
just thinking
talking-
of
that
things in my
sex
old
scene.
age to watch. Yes,
That
James has
sex
been going on
scene.
about giant
There's
erect
a sex
penises.
scene in American Gods that is the most. They say it's the most explicit that's been filmed.
Gay
in
sex scene.
Gay sex
Yes,
scene,
yes.
and it's between 2 Middle Eastern
Yeah,
gentlemen,
yeah.
and it's like just a big fuck you to Trump, and it's the hottest
Well,
thing.
there's also apparently this alien girl that sucks men into her
Her
vagina.
yeah, she's the African
Okay,
god.
I
love.
just found this out. I've been having a dream about a
Being sucked into
reoccurring dream
vaginas?
about this alien that has sex with me and sucks me into her vagina.
Really?
And
Entirely.
No, but there's something else going on there.
There's clearly
we
something else
can get a little Freudian about
We
that.
can go into that for sure. But I said that to a friend, and they said the scene's on American Gods.
She's
So-
an African goddess, and she's old, and so she keeps going to like pickup bars, and picking up these old men saying, "Worship me, worship me. I need to be worshipped again." And then when they say, "I love you, I worship you," she sucks them into a vagina. And they're
the
It's
dream.
very alien.
It's really good. You watch The Following.
Yeah.
Go back to watch The Following.
And then
Watch
American
Younger.
Gods.
Do Love Bomb, and then do American Gods.
Have you been watching Handmaid's Tale at all?
I know.
I suppose I have to like steal my. It's like,
Yeah.
do I have the strength for it? It looks so bleak,
So
and
Trumpian.
so Trumpian.
Well,
Yes, and how much Trumpianness can I take?
My biggest problem is all of those things are happening in parts of the Muslim world.
Yes.
All of those things are
Yes.
real.
And they're right around the corner in the
Right.
American world
Yeah,
too.
But
So
like I don't know. It's just it's a really hard show to watch.
I did
love
read the
her.
book,
The
so I
performances
know it,
are
and I love
unbelievable.
Elizabeth
Oh
Moss.
my God, she's so good. It's hard though. It's
Yeah,
uncomfortable.
yeah, exactly. Elizabeth Moss is amazing. Isn't she?
And
Anything-
then Roy Gilmore.
Yeah.
Well, I hate to wrap it up.
Oh, we're
but
wrapping it up.
We haven't gotten her card yet.
people have been looking.
Have they?
People have
They've
been
been
looking.
pointing?
It's so nice, James, to be out of the
Are
basement
they taking
on the
pictures?
WoW report.
I'm sorry.
It's so nice to be out of the basement and into the light.
Is that paparazzi? Do we see
Yeah.
paparazzi?
Really? What, opposite by Musso and Franks?
Invite Musso and Frank. She's
But
filming
Nico
something.
Tortorella, you are the #1 thing that made us go wow this
Thank
week.
you.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah,
This is
thank
really
you.
We
fun.
do this all the time. So
You're
good to
coming
finally
back every
meet you,
week.
too. Let's do it.
Okay.
Happening.
Anytime. Thank you.
All right, cool.